Okay, hello everyone, Kevin here from the Irish team. I'm going to do my third and final presentation, Bridging the Generations, the questionnaires that were completed by staff, grandparents and children. The questionnaires that were brilliantly drawn up by our French team, Inga and Christophe. I shouldn't be doing this one. This was supposed to be the job of the principal, Kevin Donaghy. However, as principals tend to do, my fellow PIT member has delegated responsibility and has decided he has another meeting to attend. So it's myself for the third and final time. So let's kick off. First of all, we'll do the children from our school and the questionnaires that they completed. 61 completed questionnaires from children from P4 aged 8 up to P7 aged 11. We are a rural school, so there's a high frequency of children who see their grandparents on a daily basis. A lot of the grandparents actually live with the children, or will, in this modern age when mum and dad are working, will pick the children up after school, drive the children home and do the homeworks with them. However, the grandparents ranked very low on who the children want to or actually do play with. They were 6th out of 6 groups. And I think the interesting thing, speaking to the children, was what it means to play with someone. They like the idea of energetic outdoor play, sports, climbing trees, that kind of play. And they see their grandparents more as confidants, people to speak to. But they wouldn't necessarily see the great playing games they can have with their grandparents in the house. And I think that was a question that's open to a little bit of interpretation as to how it was answered. And you'll notice the grandparents answer it very differently. Cooking and art activities with their grandparents were loved by the children, and the children expressed they love learning how to work the kitchen, make pancakes, cakes, that they've done pottery with their grandparents. And at those activities they look forward to the most. However, they don't occur frequently enough, and not all children were accessing the same skills passed on by grandparents. Traditional games played with the family. Gaelic football was always going to be very high on that list. It's a very important part of life here in Annaclone. Card games, skipping, board games, and song-based playground games. And while the grandparents may not actually be in the playground or playing the games, the rhymes and the songs taught by the grandparents, the tic-tac-toe, eeny, miny, mo, ring-a-ring-a-rosies, all of these rhymes have been taught by the grandparents to the children. Communication with grandparents is mixed. The children did say that when they are talking to grandparents about technology, phones, YouTube, Xbox, they may as well be speaking a different language, and they often have to repeat themselves 2-3 times before giving up. And I think this graphic here shows what the children are going through. That it shows children's bonds with grandparents are distancing, they're widening as we approach, as we're in this millennium. And I think that's important for us to talk about and discuss and to work throughout this project. Only 5% of the children would welcome grandparents in school regularly. They liked the idea of grandparents watching them in assembly, or perhaps if they had a special piece of art or something to show them, but they were aghast at the idea of either grandparents or parents watching them in the classroom, misbehaving, not completing work, and they shook their heads with indignation. No, they wanted their own space. They deemed their grandparents to be softer than parents in terms of relationships. They believe that with grandparents you may stay up later in the evening time. They may be softer when you get a question wrong for homework. And hugs and cuddles are very genuine from their grandparents, whereas mums and dads might be stressed after a day's work and they feel that maybe they have to hug the parent. 100% of children say that they feel excellent in their grandparents' company, safe and secure, and love spending time with their grandparents. Okay, the next group is the teachers, and you'll see Elaine back row there and Teresa there middle row, smiling resplendently. Okay, from the teachers there were 8 completed questionnaires, and for the first question there about self-realisation and the importance of the job. Staff do enjoy the job, but like any teacher, any professional anywhere, They dislike interference, whether it's from above, below, or sideways. They like to be left to do their job, to be treated as professionals, and that is when morale is at its highest. 100% of teachers requested a greater need for full family involvement in their learning, whether it was reading at home, full parental engagement, support for the school. Every teacher realised that to develop the whole child, parental involvement was important, and that we as a school should continually look to do more and to evaluate what we're doing already. Staff believe themselves to be creative and innovative teachers when time allows, and by that they want to provide the best lessons, the best curriculum, the best learning experiences for our children. However, sometimes you can get bogged down with planning and endless marking, and that restricts creativity and innovation. Teachers appreciate there is a generation gap between themselves and the children that we teach, but most must see themselves as being pretty hip because they seem confident in their ability to bridge the gap and to understand the children that we teach. IT skills are improving with staff, but not all, and staff will admit that, I'm sure it's the same in every school. Everyone's not at the same level of competence. People are trying to improve themselves 1% every year, looking at new programs, new software, but we're not all at the same level of competence or confidence. Teachers explicitly ask for more opportunities to benefit from other teachers' experience and good practice. And that's, the CPD, the career professional development that they will get from going on Erasmus or from spending time in our classrooms is invaluable. Teachers were unsure if current teaching practices are efficient in preparing pupils for the demands of society, as society demands keep changing. What we are doing here in a primary school is producing a workforce for the year 2030, 14, 15 years from now. Will the same workforce and jobs be relevant in 2030 as they are now? What kinds of levels of technological advancements will our children go into? Can we compete with China and India? Will Britain still be in the Euro? The EU? These are questions that we don't know the answers to. And the government keep interfering and changing their minds, which is difficult for them to set the agenda. In terms of economic remuneration, I think most teachers in 2008, before the economic crash, would agree that we were quite well remunerated, that payment was fine and fair. However, recent teachers' unions believe that our wages have fallen 13% in real terms because of pay freezes since 2008, and there is a growing anger amongst teachers that our wages are not being fully reflected for the hard work that we do. And just the final one there about respect for the profession. Teachers do believe, on the whole, that Anna Clone parents and community respect what they do, but would agree, again, 100% that the teaching profession is not as widely respected as it was by the previous generation in the 1960s. Okay, and our last but most important group, I think, are grandparents. And you can actually see there, bottom left, the recent sewing and stitching club for the puppets. It was something I didn't include in the photograph when we were doing the workshop, but that was our grandparents that came to school. You can see someone there working very closely with our children when they were sewing and stitching up the puppets. And you can see a photograph of a couple of the grandmothers there. Okay. 27 return questionnaires throughout the school. The grandparents value greatly time spent with their grandchildren, and they take seriously the role of impacting upon learning behaviours of their children. They deem it to be a big part of the responsibility as a grandparent. Grandparents' average spending time with children is only 5 out of 10. The grandparents are crying out for more time with their children, but only 14% say that they find it difficult to speak at a grandchild's level, which is vastly different from what the children said. 100% of grandparents said they would like to see their children playing traditional games, and that more time should be given over to them both at school and at home. Guys, it's been an interesting survey and I welcome questions. Okay, thank you.